I will now answer question 2. Before I answer question 2, I want to apologize for my lisp. I just got braces and I'm still learning how to talk with them, so I apologize in advance. Okay, so question 2. How have developments in measurement influenced the work of today's educational and school psychologists? As I researched last week's question, I discovered that 50% of school psychologists' time is spent conducting assessments. Yes, that's a lot of assessing. I bring this up because a large portion of that assessment consists of some kind of measurement. The data collection that's taken, it helps form the hypothesis for the function of behavior and measure the impact of interventions. This is also a form of measurement. So in addition, educational psychologists use psychometric tests. These psychometric tests evaluate things like students' ability, overall intelligence, things like that. So educational psychologists use these assessments to know if instructional methods are being effective and how well students are learning. How then is it that measurement became such a critical and essential component of what school psychologists and educational psychologists do? To answer this, we must first look back at historical figures in measurement development as it pertains to school and educational psychology and what they each contributed. So research states that psychological testing can stem from 2 distinct veins of thought. It could stem from the first being from Darwin, Galton, Cattell, which was the Victorian vein. And they focused on measuring individual differences. And the second would stem from Herbart, Weber, Fechner, and William Wundt. That's the German vein. I apologize, I know I said some of those wrong. Who focused on psychosocial measurements according to similar constructs. So the second group has influenced the rise of standardized testing in education. Some specific contributors are Kraepelin. He's a major figure that is present today through his development of the DSM. So Kraepelin's DSM was a categorization system which was revolutionary because it utilized a clinical approach. Today, the DSM-5 is utilized to diagnose and classify mental disorders, as it kind of was used back then. These diagnoses are made by clinicians. Although school psychologists do not use the DSM for their determination of special education eligibility, NASP, the National Association of School Psychologists, recommends, while the DSM should not direct our actions, it absolutely should direct our attention. So as school psychologists, we should be aware of the different disorders that are present in the DSM and how they're categorized. As a result, school psychologists must be up to date on current DSM changes. So we just got the new DSM-5 because this helps facilitate collaboration with medical professionals. All right. Another contributor was Alfred Binet, which lived from 1957 to 1911. He was credited with creating the first reliable intelligence test. So in 1904, he was given the task by the French government of developing a measure that would identify academic weaknesses and learning disabilities in school-aged children. So with the assistance of Theodore Simon, they began to research how to measure mental ability in children. So through this research, the Binet-Simon scale was born. This research also noted, or actually Binet noted varying abilities of students. So he did see that students have diverse learning abilities, and he believed that these abilities are progression or progress over time instead of being fixed at birth or merely genetic based. He believed that environment could influence these abilities. The subsequent revisions of the original Binet-Simon scale gained popularity, and today the Stanford Binet is still in use. Another prominent historical figure in the incorporation of measurement into school and educational psychology was Charles E. Spearman, which lived from 1863 to 1945. Spearman was intrigued by why some people grow up to be great thinkers and excel at learning, and others are challenged by the simplest problems. The journey to answer questions like these led him to his theory of G. So Spearman's law, his theory of G, states that when a sufficient number of individuals are given a sufficient number of mental tasks to perform, they are quantifiable along some metric, and the results are subjected to factor analysis. Measures of all the tasks are positively correlated, and the variance among the tasks is best represented by two major categories: the large general factor, or G, and the smaller specific factors, S. In essence, the G factor is what's responsible for our overall performance on assessments. And it created a measure or a number that you could put to mental ability. It's a way basically to measure how smart a person is, and it gives you a number, which is your IQ score. The model of intelligence, the model of intelligence is shaped by measurement. Following Spearman's theory of intelligence, many other theories emerged, such as Thurstone's primary mental abilities in 1938, Guilford's structure of intellectual model, 1957 through 67, Vernon's hierarchical theory, 1950, Horn and Cattell's theory of fluid and crystallized intelligence, 1967. Although intelligence theories continue to change and evolve, such as Gustafson's 1984 unifying model and more recently Carroll's three-stratum theory in 1993, all the aforementioned theories are based on factoring tests of intelligence into varying numbers of constituents. This is important to school psychologists and educational psychologists because most of the intelligence tests being administered in the schools include a composite G-based measure, although they might call it something else, such as the Wechsler scales, the WJ, the KEBC, the DAS or the DAS, and others. According to Buchholz 2002, a number of empirical studies have found that G reliably predicts performance in educational settings and even vocational performance, and does so better than other measures or methods yet studied. It should be noted that there are critics to measures that measure G used to assess intelligence due to variances that have arisen that are race-based. So variance in the scores based on race. Another prominent figure is Carl Pearson. He's regarded as many as the father of statistics, and he contributed the product moment correlation coefficient, which allowed for the systematic evaluation of relationships between variables. So through this method, one could measure if one variable intelligence is related to another. In regards to measurement and measures, another notable figure is Cronbach. I think I'm pronouncing that right. His research spanned topics such as response styles and how non-academic aspects of tests could distort scores, consistency of test scores, and generalizability. So if ability has not changed, scores should not vary much regardless of the number of times the students administered the assessment. This is known as reliability or consistency of measure. The coefficient alpha, which is its name, would give us a number or a value as to the reliability of a measure. So as a result, exams with high reliability could be administered only once with confidence that that score reflects the true ability of the student being tested. So we don't have to give the test 3 times just to make sure. If it has high coefficient alpha, if it's highly reliable, then we know that we can administer that measure once. These are some of the contributions of Cronbach that he made to psychological testing and measurement. And through his research, we found the reliability coefficient. As previously mentioned, school psychologists and educational psychologists have measurement as an essential function of the field. That's a major job that or a major responsibility that both of those professions are going to deal with on a daily basis. And the aforementioned men have not only influenced measurement in education, but they've shaped the way that we educate our students. And I believe that is all for question 2. Thank you.